All right, so who here has had some type of family gathering, some type of friend gathering, where there's been that one guy who gets way too fired up over the football game, maybe the baseball game, maybe the hockey game, and you're just sitting there watching that uncle, and you're like, man, he really cares. He really cares. And I've been that person, and I've also watched that person a lot, and I wonder why. And I remember there was something really, really surprising to me when I moved down here from Canada, and that was the Super Bowl. The Super Bowl was in Arizona, and I could not believe the excitement behind it. The events, the tailgates, the watch parties, it was crazy, right? Well, I want to do some research and really figure out, well, how big are these things actually? And I found something pretty interesting. There was an independent study done by the W.P. Carey Business School of the Arizona State University that estimated that the Super Bowl weekend created an economic stimulus of $1.3 billion. It's a big number, hard to figure out. Well, there's something that's even more interesting that can put it in perspective. The restaurant Red Robin in 2022 produced $1.3 billion of revenue in the entire year. And that was produced in Arizona in one weekend. So this is a big industry. So when I'm looking at these things, I wanted to learn a little bit more on why this is such a big deal and what are some of the effects of these major sports franchises. So that's what I want to talk to you guys about today. The effect that major sports franchises have on the municipalities they represent. And there are three key areas, I'd say, that these sports franchises have an impact. Firstly, like I've already talked about a little bit, economic stimulus. Secondly, something that I don't think people talk about enough is the infrastructure that is produced to support these teams. And thirdly, and most certainly overlooked, the community service and cultural impact these teams have. So first off, I want to go a little bit more into the economics. And I want to take it away a little bit from the money that the teams are making and go a little bit more into what is causing the local economy that the team is in. So think about it this way. The Athletic, which is a reputable sports journalism branch, reported that a typical NHL production, that is an NHL game, needs at least 1,000 common employees. Think security, think vendors, think the people selling merchandise, think ushers. That's 1,000 jobs per night on a regular scheduled basis that is being produced by these NHL teams in areas for untrained individuals where they might not have worked before. That's a significant impact. Now take it outside the stadium. Think about local restaurants, local bars, vendors outside the stadium, even neighbors to the stadium who just live that sell their parking space for $200, $300 for a Super Bowl game, right? These are tangible economic impacts that these teams have. Now I want to move a little bit towards the infrastructural aspects. You might wonder what that means. Why do we need these big glorified cans of bleachers where we all sit and watch sports? Well, it's actually a lot bigger than that. It's a huge private investment that often comes from a big group of investors that is invested into the local economy. For example, Los Angeles Rams owner Stan Kroenke sank $5 billion into this new SoFi Stadium in Los Angeles. You won't find a private investment of $5 billion many places. And now that is a facility that will be used and cherished by the Los Angeles community for a long time. Even taking it up north to Canada. A lot of the Cats Group is the ownership company of the Edmonton Oilers. They invested 27% in private equity into the new stadium in Edmonton, which now draws lots of talent from different places. So those types of big infrastructural investments are really valuable in a local economy. Now I want to go a little bit towards the community aspects. I want to explain how these sports teams can have an impact in their communities and culturally. One of the biggest ones I found when I was researching this that was a really cool story was the story of the New Orleans Saints in 2006. As you guys probably might know, Hurricane Katrina was 2005 and it absolutely ravaged the city. One of the first companies to come back to business from that in terms of a big scale was the New Orleans Saints. I found an interview from a lady named Gina Wildman who had a bistro outside near near the Superdome where the New Orleans Saints used to play. And she called the New Orleans Saints a huge shot to the arm in a time of crisis. She said her revenue almost tripled once they returned to play post Hurricane Katrina. That is significant life-changing effects on the community around the team. Not only that, just in a side effect, they also raised $1 million in the Saints Relief Fund to help with that. Even in other industries, like the NBA, the Spurs Gift Foundation every year raise thousands of pounds in food for food banks and feed people on Thanksgiving. So now that we've looked at some of the direct impacts of the sports teams and the indirect effects of the sports teams, it's clear the footprint is really large, economically, infrastructurally, and culturally. So next time you're watching your crazy uncle go crazy at his TV and throw his Bud Light at it, just know it might be part of something a little bit more.